tonight for the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union Policy Drafting Committee. Go through a format, and then we can have adjustments to the agenda and have public acknowledgements after we've had an opportunity to read through what it is on the agenda that we plan on covering tonight. The agenda for the day is November 4th at 4:30. This meeting is live and on CAT TV and with our legal representative on board as well. And so when we talk, it would be great if we acknowledge who we are so that CAT TV audience will know who it is that they're listening to. And if we have something specifically, we need to get an answer to a question. We'd like to make sure we get that clearly down so that we can address it when appropriate. In-person agenda tonight was public comments, and we allowed 5 minutes for that. We can adjust. We have minutes from September the 9th meeting, and on the agenda for policies review is policy number 5010, which is the Title I Environment Compact, and that's Laura would be reviewing that, and that we have to do annually every year. We have policy number 5156, Student Nutrition and Wellness Policy, which we have a lot of work going on with that, and recommendation from the Vermont School Board Association, as well as others here for making changes to that. Policy number 1090, use of school facilities, is in review, and thanks for our legal help from Dina that really went through it and made this more of an more diverse and includes an inclusion policy and safe for us. So we'll get a chance to hear and see that later on. Policy number 2600, Superintendents of School Evaluation Review, and we'll be discussing that, what we have right now and later. We have FYI, we have community disease 5140 administrative regs. We have a tracking sheet to let you know where everything is and what we've taken place so far up to this point. And we have a feeder, which we call a feeder, or other future development policy for consideration for this board, which we have 5175, possession, sale, and distribution of use of illegal substance. We have 4100, alcohol and drug-free workplace. We have policy number 1018, school community relations, and one that was asked to put on last time, and I mentioned and I forgot it when we were planning to agenda. We can add that on. It's policy 1000 is down for consideration as policy on policies. That is, and our next meeting is scheduled for December 2nd. Those are the items that I have down now. What I like to do is ask members that are here, and we can actually go out of order. I mean, we can ask if this agenda is appropriate for what we say we're going to have in terms of the order of the format. And did I miss something that's not on here that we needed to discuss tonight? And we can listen to that. Did I hear anybody, any comments concerning the agenda topics that I've covered so far? Okay. If not, then we'll proceed with the agenda in this particular manner. And what I'd like to do is we have several people in the audience to find out who we have and nature of business, and be able to address these in this meeting as possible. So why don't we start with Lisa?
Lisa Poplaski, Administrative Assistant to Laura Boudreaux.
I'm Holly Anderson, Director of Facilities Management and Operations for the SVSU.
Jim Pelkey, Superintendent, SVSU.
Leon Johnson, MAU, and Paul's the chair.
Sandy Foster, Pownell.
Katie Aiken, MAU and SVSU for Bennington.
Glenn Thurber, Woodford.
Laura Boudreau, Assistant Superintendent.
We can start. You can say your name if you're here. If you want to, whether you have a comment or not, we'll still like to have for the minutes and the people on CAT TV to know who you are.
Mary Morrissey, Bennington. And do you want me to say something after they all introduce themselves?
Well, if you're coming for public comment, right, and that's when you'll be asked to address that. Right now, it's just acknowledging who's here in the room, and if that's what you wanted to speak on public comment, then we'll have section for it. Thank you. Next.
Darlene Come.
Norman LeBlanc.
Norman
Clark Adams.
and Clark Adams,
Fran Kenny.
Fran Kenny. Okay. Thank you all for coming, and there's no other.
There's one person electronically that we can't let in because they haven't put a name on who they are, so our security moment. It's just letters and a number. So if you hear me, if you readmit yourself with a name, then I can let you in.
Okay. And at that particular time, that will be, good. So we have 4 people, or 5 people that's possible for, comments, public comments. This is the, drafting committee for policies for the SVSU. I wanted to remind everyone before we start in here that the language and the words and the actions have consequences that we use when we're dealing with actions of the public. And so we on CAT TV and we have individuals here. So we want to be particularly respectful for all the individuals that are here and be as positive as possible. With that, I'd like to open the floor up for public comments. And we have members of the public here. Yes,
Do you want us to speak right from our
you can speak right from there if you'd like to.
Mary Morrissey, and I'm here today because a group of veterans showed up or came to your last meeting about a month ago in regards to the Pledge of Allegiance. And you good folks are the folks that write policy, but we're trying to have an understanding because it wasn't totally made clear that the board, is it the larger board that meets next week? Will that be the board making a decision and then it will come to this board to have a policy written? Is that how it goes?
I'll hold that until we finish at the end, because normally we don't reply to public comment. We listen. If we can make that part of someone's report, to be able to reply to that, if we hear all of the comment from everybody. Is that the only one?
Yes. And I'm here, Darlene Come, representing the American Legion Auxiliary and the American Legion for Veterans for the same reason that Mary spoke about the Pledge of Allegiance that was addressed at the elementary.
Consolidated.
And I wasn't there and wasn't aware of what was addressed. If you wanted to speak to that, someone would be helpful.
There seems to be no policy. Issue had come about in Shasberry where the parents or a parent was told, or the children were told that they could not say the pledge, or they were not saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and several parents asked about what the policy was. And there appears to be a policy that they allow the principal to, I guess, do what they want for each school. And we were trying to encourage that there be a positive policy put forth and, you know, respectful of everyone. So if someone didn't want to say it, they didn't have to, but out of respect for this being a part of our nation's
Freedom.
freedom and forgive me for hesitating here, but it's out of respect. It's a symbol of our, and this mission statement for our country. And we were hoping that there could be a policy of saying the pledge, understanding there may be students that don't want to say it. And, you know, that it was an important issue for our veterans who fought for the freedoms of everyone.
Thank you. I think I understand that.
I would like to add, I don't believe many of us who were here at that meeting realized that many of the classes right up straight through don't do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't think it was my fault for not being my knowledge, obviously, but I think we were shocked as concerned for our children and their learning and their respect of our country.
Yep, my name is Donald Blank. I'm here on behalf of the VFW. 23-year combat veteran. I think, in a public school, I believe there should be a policy of the Pledge of Allegiance. At the very least, played at a certain time every day, to foster true patriotism in our country, which, you know, I hope that everybody here wants to be here. I know for a fact when I'm overseas, we listen to the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem of every country that we are in, and we stand at attention. It's just respect. And I find it very disheartening in a public school system that that's not commonplace, that it's the very least played. You know, I would, as a member of the Bennington community, and you know, I would like to see a policy eventually drafted in place to address this issue, and I would like to see a favorable outcome. That's what I would like to see discussed.
Can I ask you,
Right here.
is it all right to ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Okay. Played versus recited.
You know, I think I want to try to figure it out how we can all get along. And, you know, I would love to see recited.
Mhm.
I think in the world we have to compromise.
Yep.
At the very least played. I think, you know, you know, we need to discuss this like an adult. I was at the last meeting. It was a very positive meeting, I think. Everybody was calm and collective. I don't want to run over my 5 minutes, but you know, I want to meet somewhere in the middle, because I know,
Sure.
you know, one side should never get everything they want. You know, we have to compromise, you know, and,
I wanted to make sure I understood your statement.
yes, but that's,
Oh, thank you. That
I'd
clarity.
love to be where it will settle happily.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm like my peers here. I'm Clark Adams representing me. I'm a veteran of 25 years of service to this country, some of it during times of war. So a disabled veteran, father, son, husband, grandson, son of veterans. Love of one's country is important to me. America's been good to me and many other people. And the absence or the inconsistent opportunities for our young people to be educated and or demonstrate their love and respect for this country, I think is something that needs to be addressed. I too was shocked to hear that there is no consistent across-the-board policy amongst the schools on Pledge of Allegiance. And I, like Norm here, would like to have Pledge of Allegiance as part of every day in our school systems. And I understand there are people who have spiritual and personal reasons that they don't feel comfortable saying that pledge, but I also feel that those who consider it important being denied the opportunity to say it also is not an acceptable circumstance. So again, as citizen of this country, a veteran of service to this country, I think our children need to be made aware and given an opportunity to demonstrate love and respect for the United States of America.
I agree with everything they said. I had a father who was killed in war. I never knew him, but I come from a military family. Just about everybody in my family, aunts and uncles, served in the military. So, I think that's something that they ought to say. And if you've been watching the news and this administration that's been in power for the last 4 years, our kids are going right down the toilet as far as patriotism or anything else. I mean, so it scares the hell out of you what these kids are going to be like in the next 10, 20 years. So anyway, that's my opinion, but it's scary. And you see what the colleges are doing, and I mean, hell, they're supporting Hamas, for God's sakes, that kill people, and these kids don't have a damn clue what they're talking about when they're protesting on all this stuff. I mean, they really don't have a clue. So, you got to start somewhere. So maybe doing the pledges where you start it up again. So, just my opinion.
Okay, well, thank you. That, are there any, do we get anybody
No.
back on?
No one electronically.
No one. So that, unless in the board member here, any board members have something to say about a public comment in addition to,
Just that we are going to take it up at our next SVSU SP,
but this is,
but not as a policy, just as a,
okay, so,
as a procedure and guidance.
Yeah, I can
so that's the comment that you making
my
as a
comment.
public comment?
Yes.
As a person that's just saying that SVSU was going to take it
It's our
up?
understanding it'll be on the agenda for the next.
Okay, so thanks for that.
Leon, can I ask a question? I know you're not supposed to, but we were told by Chris Murphy when we were at the elementary board meeting, and that November they were going to have a policy or something. Then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I heard wrong.
My understanding, Fran, is it will be on their agenda for discussion.
But that would be another board.
Right. No, I get
They
that.
haven't published their agenda yet.
Okay.
That's why I say it's my
I
understanding.
just was asking.
Okay,
Well, their agenda will be published by noontime Friday, but
Oh, okay.
I
Good.
have every reason to believe that it will be on there for discussion.
Okay. Thank
That was why we were here tonight, because we didn't know the steps that would need to be taken. But could anyone answer my question about if they do come up with a policy, does it then come to you folks?
my next statement was going to be that we take information from the public as you in terms of input and the needs for this community or this SVSU school system. So hearing your concerns would be something that will be added to future considerations to be looked at. And in that process, what happens out here, and I wanted to make sure that it has to go through some debate about what it should look like and what it should be. And we have to get all of the school boards, once we draft that, a copy of that, we have to get our legal system to look at what it is that we're talking about doing so that we won't violate anybody's rights along that line. And then we come back and we present that to the districts for approval. Each district at a time will approve whatever it is if we were to do that. And then it becomes the policy of the SVSU school district. Now, in that process, there may be no need for one to make it to this one. And the request of the community is what I'm hearing is that, of the members that are here and speaking in public comment, is that they would like to see a policy. Now, whether it comes from administration to govern everything else, we'll have to do some research and all that kind of stuff to find out. But it's on board now and listing as something that we need to address in some form or fashion to be able to get back out and how it should be handled. We do have policies, a lot of them that are not considered required policies by the agency of education, but we have none. And then we have individual boards that do have policies that are some specific to either North Bennington, Arlington, or SVSU, but for the bulk of them, all the policies pertaining to the overall umbrella of SVSU will come through here. Okay, so that's the process. You're welcome to stay to hear the rest of this if you like. If you wanted to leave, you could, but I appreciate you coming in and sharing that.
So, thank you.
And you will hear something back. We have one way or another, you hear from this board in terms of what is going on.
How will we hear that, Lynn?
Well, you spoke your name and we would be addressing it, whether it shows up. And maybe, do we need a address or anything else from anybody that, an email or?
We don't normally respond through email for anything that happens in the meeting. The minutes will get posted and that would be the extent.
And if you don't hear or see anything from the other
Come back, it's the first Monday of every month.
Right.
right, you can come back.
And the agenda gets posted,
If it falls on a holiday, then it goes to the next Monday.
and the agenda is posted by noon the Friday before, and it'll have what policies are up, what's on the agenda.
It just when they say he contacts, I didn't know how it would get back. I see him every day, so it's not. But that's not an official, that's not an official correspondence.
And the meeting next week is November 12th at 5:30, correct?
What? November. Oh, this meeting, our next meeting is December 2nd.
No, that's about ESD.
Oh, I have no idea.
Tuesday, whatever the date of next Tuesday is at 5:30 in this room.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Folks.
Yeah,
Thank you for your service, both.
yeah, it was worth it.
If my dad says, get me out of trouble, he just didn't know.
Thank you. We have it. The next item on the agenda is minutes from September 9th. If we had an opportunity to read those minutes and have comments, it would be entertain a motion to approve the minutes from September 9th policy committee meeting.
So moved.
Been moved
Second.
and the second. Again, it was
One thing each time, that's Glenn and Woodford who moved.
and
Sandy.
And according to Robert rules, when you have a small board like this, we don't have to have a second, but we got it. I want to make note of that. Thank you for that. Are there any comments or changes on the minutes? Hearing none, ask that we accept the minutes as written for this September 9th. And just a yay or nay for those. Okay. And now I would be fine.
Yay.
Okay, the minutes are approved. The next item on the list is policy number 5010, which is Title I, Parent Involvement. And Laura will review this, is responsible for this, and I'll turn the floor over to Laura.
Annual requirement, and is linked to our Title I, funding. I have to report to the policy committee that as of Thursday, September 26th, all 10 schools had a title school-wide meeting that was attended by myself in partnership with the administration from each building, where we met with families. A total of 224 families and community members attended the meetings. They shared, they reviewed the compact, which is a requirement of the parent involvement policy. And then we collected ideas from families about things that they would like to see in their school settings. And at the conclusion of each meeting, I shared, and I am required to share, that the SVSU has policy 5010, parent engagement. And does anyone have any feedback you would like me to report back to the policy committee meeting? And there was no feedback. So it is my responsibility to share that, and it'll be reflected in the minutes so that if we're audited, we'll have this evidence that this was discussed. Does anyone have any questions for me about that requirement?
No comments. Well, thank you, Lauren, for completing that. That's there. The next policy on, tonight is 5156. It's nutrition and wellness policy. And, at our last meeting for that particular policy, there were some comments and particular interest in some emphasis about whether food was going to be, how food was treated in terms of reward and punishment and so forth along that. And we heard that information and we took that back, and we had some comment and some changes made to that. So I would like to ask for the highlighted changes that are in your packet. Is on the line items starting with 13 on page 2 of 4 and going to page 21. I mean, to line 21 on page 2 of 4. So you can look those over, and then I'll ask the floor here if you want to talk about those items.
For the update, so
It's going to do that, Paul. Okay.
I took it back to the district health and wellness team, and I explained what the conversation was around. We went back to the Vermont Agency of Education guidance policy document, and Maureen O'Neill was super helpful in this conversation. And we went right to the section, and we had pared down the language from the draft policy. And so what we've done instead, because everything you talked about was actually there, which references the exception as part of the behavior intervention plan, and then also talks about the use of food that can be used as part of learning. So again, it's right from the draft policy. So then I asked the entire SVSU Health and Wellness group to vote on that change. Were they all in agreement? They were all in agreement. And then last week, we took all of this to the entire administrative team as well, and told them what this conversation was, and then told them what the recommendation was from the SVSU Health and Wellness team. And we asked all of them the same exact question. Does anybody have any concerns? Does this sound reasonable to you? And they were all fine. So both groups have now reviewed this piece.
Okay, is there anyone else that have some comments about it? The questions came up, and does this meet everybody?
This is
So many understanding.
thank you so much for doing
Perfect.
this.
Yes.
So much clearer, and it's much easier to understand. Thank you.
So hearing that, we can then get a motion to move the policy on to the next phase of the process, and that would be the warning process for this.
Make a motion, 51, 56.
That we are 5156 on as a required policy for warning, and the next available opportunity for SVSU or the other districts from this board on. Thank you. Just a piece of paper. The other sheet. Next. Something got out of order here. Oh, it's at the bottom. I'm sorry. At the bottom, something got out of order. That was 51, 56. The next policy on was policy 1090. And as I mentioned earlier, there were, in an effort to make sure that our policies meet the requirements in terms of equity and inclusion and protect the interests of the school board systems and its equipment for use by the public and within the district. There were some review of this policy, and we asked our legal advisor, our lawyer system, to take a look at it, and they came back with some recommended changes. And first of all,
Holly Anderson is part of the admin team to the policy committee this year, and so this was, again, policies that needed to be updated. So Holly's here as well.
so I was going to open the floor up. If we have the policy with edits in it and comments from a legal system, legal support, and then we can discuss those particular items here now. If you want to have one, Holly, you want to say something, it's be fine.
I'm here to ask questions or answer questions and take away any edits that need to be made.
Okay, I'll give more board members, committee members an opportunity to ask the question if you have some concern about what's there. Sandy?
I'm just curious, not that it has anything to do with the policy itself, but some of our policies start off with the board of directors and some of them start off with listing the districts. And I didn't know if we should be consistent in either one or the other.
We will be consistent with all of our policies. That was something that we said a long time ago in terms of it.
The names are here.
Way in the top, Lisa, where it says the board of directors, if you look at the Title I that Laura just shared, it starts off by the SVSU, the other,
They're all right here.
well, up above.
Oh, the first line.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot was taken, well, there's stuff taken out.
They would be, it is the policy of the SVSU supervisory union when it gets in its final form.
So it won't say the board of directors. On the very first four words,
I see.
that's my question. there.
Right, and it would, that header format that we had, including Sandgate and all that other stuff, will go right through and state that that's our disposition and then go into the other information. So and when it comes back and move back in the next form, it would have that format.
So how does that change that sentence? It'll start with that and then go recognizes that, although the primary purpose?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then it goes down and lists the Southwest Vermont, the directors.
And then we'll show that when it goes through the first round. Are we gonna leave, let's try to stay in the first round.
Yes, for warning. Yep.
Right, for one, and it won't be comments from legal services on the side, but yeah.
So what you, before that goes, Lisa, you'll tweak that before this goes to?
No, it will go as it is to the boards for warning. Then when it goes to adoption, then all the strikeouts and stuff will get removed.
The strikeouts will be removed and the correct heading will be in there to address all of that.
Just for clarity, Lisa, if I may, one of my comments, the second one that I have actually has the proposed language that I was talking about putting in there,
Thank you.
where it says how about, that's me saying, that's my proposed language in the second comment.
Yes, if someone was, I didn't have any difficulty with it. Is someone having some comments about that language of that part? Make the school facility available to individuals and community groups without discrimination in accordance with the policy, providing that the facilities are preserved for regular school activities while protecting the district physical assets and investments. And that came right from Vermont School Board Association, from that.
I see what you're saying, Dina.
Okay. I mean, if you want, Lisa, after this, if you want, if everybody's okay with what my comment is, I can embed it within the document. I just wanted to
Make it
pull out.
smaller on my screen to read it.
Okay, it's. Oh, it did.
So over,
Basically, it was, Leon, I was basically saying, I was modifying that language you have highlighted that says from BSBA. And saying that I was suggesting maybe it is the goal of the boards that the school facilities are available to the extent possible to community members and groups without discrimination. The approval or use of a school facility by a community member or group does not mean that the group or activity is supported, endorsed, or sponsored by the district. I think that's a very
Okay.
key point to put in there. And I get about the physical assets and investment. That's going to be part and parcel of the approval process anyhow. I'm concerned about the discrimination part more so than I am about Holly's position is more about the physical assets and investment. Mine is more probably about what I wrote. Although we both as individuals care about both of them.
I don't have any problem with that if the board, other board members can agree and would mind for that being inserted that way for the next time. And again, it'll be going out. And if nobody has any objections to Nina's comments there, that way of rewording that in that manner. And again, the goal is to make sure we take care of discrimination efforts out here without discriminating.
I do have one question about the fees associated as to when that will be determined. What does annual mean? Does it mean July? Does it mean January?
Where we are now here. Let me make sure we got,
Okay.
we okay on this comment portion up here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
so
And so,
where do we want to put that sentence paragraph?
it's gonna be, you wanted that to
Dina's
take,
recommendation.
I can add it, Lisa, after the fact. It'll be to the highlighted stuff. We'll fit it within.
Okay,
okay, and then if she fit it within and send that back and we'll have that.
Yeah. I will.
For the next time, when it goes out and go around as a warning. They're all aboard, so that'll work. The Sandra has a question about the what section, what part?
Page 2,
Page.
4.
So we're on page 2. Okay, now you wanted to comment?
No, I just curious because it says annually, but in a school year is annually starting July 1st, or is it a calendar year?
I can confirm with Renee. My sense is it would be included in the budget year, fiscal year, just starting July 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's clarification along that line in terms of budget for fiscal year, but it wouldn't, as long as that group is responsible for doing that, we should be okay. But if you want to know whether we're working on the budget of fiscal year, can supply that if we want to.
I'm just curious what that would look like. No, I don't think it has to be in there, just.
Yeah. It wouldn't, because if we left it to the director of finance and the director of operations and so forth, then that finance group and so forth will be saying that they're consistently doing it at one point or another. That'll work. Okay.
Because what could end up, maybe depending on what Renee or finance says, where it says will be determined annually in July of each year, something like that.
Yeah, okay, that word,
Depending.
that wording will be fine, it wouldn't alter the intent of this policy and so forth. No. And any other comments or recommendations for this policy? Here, no, and I'd like to make, let's move this policy on to the next phase with the modifications and the other information that to the warning process with an agreement from the favor of that. Okay, thank you.
I thought we were using day.
What's that?
I thought we were using day.
Yeah,
Excessive celebration.
It's not as easy. Don't even think about it. What we're using these days. The next item on the policy is policy 2600. And I like to just open up and say something before we get here. Understand that that will work that was done previously, and looked at in terms of comments. And I was a little bit confused, and I mentioned to some, this policy was in place and in place for the superintendent's evaluation from this past year. And he has to be evaluated with the current policy as written and in place. Any changes or modifications to this policy will be for the next policy change and the next, this coming year to year. We're going to move on along that line. And so the changes and the recommendations that we're looking at here will have to go through the same process that we're talking about. And it's going to ask everyone to edit and modify something in here. It would need to go get the agreement, all of the boards, and we get our legal team to look at it to make sure that any changes that we make here and would be presentable and acceptable for the next edition of the superintendent's of school evaluation review. Again, I read through it, and policies 2 and 3, and on pages all the way to 1 and 2, and then 3 and 5, which only suggests that something be, and that part 3 and 5 wasn't included. I'm thinking the minutes for that, but pages 3 and 5 were titled, that's on the website that we should be using is Southwest Vermont Supervisor Union Superintendent's Evaluation Instrument. That's what we have on the website in addition to the first 2 pages. So I would like to, hearing that, and I would like to hear comments concerning what it is that we would like to make changes to this particular policy, knowing that it's not in effect for this year. It's for the next, I mean, it's not for the evaluation this year, it's for the next year's evaluation.
I'd love to start.
Okay.
The evaluation is effectively moot at this point as we congratulate both superintendent and assistant superintendent on announcing their retirement. So what this does afford us the opportunity to do is to align with other standards that are used by other districts throughout the state, which essentially is the Vermont State Boards Association rubric for evaluation. Sadie and I took a great deal of time over the summer and did a lot of copy and pasting, and Sandy with a lot of formatting because that's not my forte. And basically that's what a quick survey of 3 other districts in the state use as a formality. As we reference everything else here using VSBA as best practice and guideline, I think that this should fall into alignment as well. And that would be a great place to start from in looking when we get to a candidate search.
Don't have those changes, and it would be helpful to get them. You can spell them out and we can modify those in there.
Copies.
I don't have those.
It's the Sandy.
So that we can, look at those.
Mhm.
And again, I have to remind you that this is a drafting committee.
Yeah, it's a drafting.
And that the process that we have to go through is that everyone has to agree on it. And it's a little bit different here. This is, I mean, we would wait, still our attorney in, regardless of whether we have a superintendent or assistant superintendent that are here now. And their comments will be made in terms of what it is. I mean, in terms of reviewing what it is and whether it makes sense to make those particular changes that are being recommended. So I just wanted to make sure we include it. We start the debate, we start the conversation for that to happen, and make sure that we didn't get that confused with what should be happening now. And that was what my understanding was, that the evaluation for the superintendent from the previous school year should be, and I haven't, as indicated in here, that, is what should be taking place now outside of the changes here.
So I want to equate what the work that Len and I did over the summer to the similar when the wellness committee got together and talked about how to work on the wellness committee. And our charge was based on the SU board chair, who asked us to look at the policy and to look to see what we could do to make it match what was happening across the state, which is what we did. And then Lisa so very kindly sent me what she uses to line up all of the numbers on the side of every line of every policy so we can look at it. But I was not as talented and couldn't get it to line up. For whatever reason, I couldn't get the numbers to line up to the lines. I don't know why, Lisa.
Well, if you move things around, then it would change.
So
So
The short.
if you add seconds, if you move something, the numbers change.
it wouldn't even line up. So,
It's nothing wrong with,
so
with
so hard
somebody
for
asking,
me.
with somebody asking you to do something.
Uh.
And because I'm saying earlier, the information come from the public, the
Yes.
administrators, it comes from other areas and so forth, and it gets on the list. And I think the first thing we did was made sure, I tried to understand, and I was still confused of what was that. And I was trying to feed information back and saying, wait a minute, the superintendent should be getting an evaluation based on what is present right now. So no matter what you do, it's not going to affect the evaluation should be taking place
Sure.
right now. So the information that you have can go and be reviewed and edited and modified, and we'll go pass it right through the district. So it doesn't matter what it is, as long as everybody buy into it and say that this is this is what we want to do and how we want to use it, it would then become a policy 2600.
So I would love to share what we worked on. Oh, and then I will send this to Lisa. Should
Okay,
that work for you?
I think we have time to.
Well, and I'm thinking whatever,
I was just to whatever you right now to.
whatever changes are there, I think I would need to modify potentially this policy.
Right.
And it will come back here
Right.
before it goes any place.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's right.
Can I pop in a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
This is-
I yeah, I can talk louder. I also, you know, the clocks have changed, so I've got two four-leggeds who think that it's actually their time to get their sustenance. So we may hear from them as well. I just want to put out a couple things. Yes, Leon, I agree with you. If you're working on a policy, thank you, stop. If you're working on a policy, it's not going to be going into effect to have any effect on whatever evaluation would be done this year. The other thing I did want to point out is I did a complete survey of every SU in the state of Vermont, and I have all of their policies. And the VSBA has a model policy which is very different than your policy. I don't know what policies were looked at for the editing, but I want to make sure that there's clarity about there are policies that are out there that do talk about supervision and monitoring of superintendents. For example, like Mount Abraham, Mount Mansfield, Bennington, Rutland, and some other ones that are actually dealing with what's called policy governance. And so they do, in fact, have a different model about how they quote unquote evaluate a superintendent. So I want to make sure that when I'm going to review, if I could, what the policy changes are, and I'm obviously, I think my understanding is, Leon, that as the policy guru guy, you would like me to take a look at it and provide input. I'd like to know sort of where you all looked for it, because I think it matters because you are so far from a policy governance model and how your boards operate. Rutland Northeast operates as a policy governance model as well. I think Randolph does. I could list it, actually, if I saw what their policies were about their superintendent monitoring and evaluation, I could tell you. And you all are not using that policy governance model. And so that's a key component of it. It talks about ends and whether or not the superintendent is meeting the ends, that the board is setting up policy. So I don't know if you took from the VSBA model policy, which does not have anything close to what is in your current policy. So I just would like to know what I'm looking at, I guess, as well, so I can also respond to that part as well.
I can go back and it's been the experience, and I'll just throw this historical information in there somewhere along the line. When I came to this board when I came to be a board member for the first time, and which close to almost 30 years ago, there was no SVSU policies central for all of the school districts. And a retired board member, Dick France, and I got together and started to pull out and collect policies and information from around to make sure that we had first an umbrella buy-in from all the districts, and that we got policies and tried to make sure that to the best of our ability and from input. And then we had several legal other members part of this team to help us make sure we were putting what was necessary in to evaluate the superintendent. The problem that has been over all these years, I don't think that it has not been a single year that the time came for the superintendent to be evaluated, that the board recanted what was present and wanted to do something different. And I just wanted to throw, that's why we're so different, because every time we have an evaluation, somebody has a different view of how they want it to be. And we make those changes with the various superintendents that we've had in the past that agreed, and that's why we got to what we got right now. So this is no different. We're here another year, and we're willing to make those changes and have them reviewed by our legal team, and with agreement of the administration that certain things in there are things according to what they are responsible for in addition to the goals that we make at that particular time. So, more than happy to take those. I don't know how we want to, you wanted to, if you have be able to take a short visit to go through this, and then if not, we can send it on and we can have it.
No, I think that we have the time and should use the time to look at it and then come back next month maybe and talk about it as because it's difficult to look at it very quickly and make any type of, comments, I think, without actually having a chance to review with Leon. And I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to rush it. I want it to be right.
It's gonna be, because it's gonna take several times to come back here.
So,
I'm just trying to make sure that there's no urgency on these changes.
no,
So it's gonna go through the same process. What I wanted to make sure is that it got in a format for Lisa to have so that everybody can look at it and we can start taking those things. But if you can take 5 minutes or something to go over, if you don't mind it, you want to.
I'm gonna excuse myself.
She's like,
Thank you for coming
coming.
to do that. So that all we're doing is listening to what it is that you think you want to have in there, and then we gotta take it to the next phase.
I think that we pretty much saw the overview and what the policy was as we looked at it, and so, that whoever the superintendent is now, if we didn't know at the time, they should know what the evaluation tool was. In the Vermont School Board Association packet, they actually had a rubric that they used to outline the various responsibilities that the superintendent has. And was part of that, which is included in this packet that I shared with you. And that there is, similar to principles, a self-evaluation, and then a chance for everyone to review it. And the SVSU chair, of course, to oversee it.
So Sandy, if I understand what you're saying is you took what the VSBA has not as their policy, but what they utilize when they go in and provide, because sometimes they're hired actually to come in and do a superintendent's evaluation or to help facilitate a superintendent's evaluation.
Yes, I don't know what's included in that because this was actually on their website, the rubric that they have, and I don't know if it's the same rubric that they use when they complete a superintendent's evaluation. I don't have that knowledge. But it did look as though it covers board and superintendent relationship, finances, policies, instructional leadership, things that community relations, operational management, things that I think are typical. And I want to say, I think that are typical. I've never been a superintendent, that are included in what, they oversee on a regular basis.
Okay.
Those things have been
So-
out there. Okay, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, so I don't know who's running the meeting, but can I have where I can post?
Yep, I
Yes.
can do that.
Oh,
You should be able to share your screen, Dana.
Yeah, okay. So
is that
Want me
what
to
you
stop
want to do?
sharing
Because what you're saying, you wanted to see the changes, or you wanted?
well, no,
Just
yeah,
want
I
to
just
share
know, I
screen.
Oh,
I just
Lisa,
wanna,
Get off.
because I have what their
I'm
policy,
blocking her.
You can email her, Lisa. I send it to you, Lisa.
But we won't spend the time to try to.
Yeah, but I can't load my
We'll get it.
email. It'll take forever.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm just
so-
trying to say it's an introduction here, and we're gonna get it. to the
right,
right
I
place.
just wanna put out just so that we understand of where the information that's in my brain about this and what it is, right? So what you're looking at is the Franklin West Supervisory Union. And you'll see it says A24.
You think you can make that a little bigger on your end, Dana? Thank you.
Hey.
I don't even know how I did that, but let's roll
Thank
with
you.
it. This is actually the VSBA model policy that they have. And that has been adopted with the exception of, I think we found Bello. I can give you the information. I mean, we could talk about it more, but this is the policy that VSBA puts out for a superintendent policy. Okay. And this is not the, when I was talking about the policy governance one. So I don't know if this is clearly not what you were talking about, because this is a policy as a policy would be, which would be stating sort of the philosophical underpinnings of, hey, we respect the confidentiality of communication in both directions. We work towards open communication and trust. Superintendent works for the board as a whole, not for an individual member. All of these things. And outlines very limitedly the limitation on school board directors, where they work directly with the superintendent and central office staff, but they're not going to be the ones who are on a day-to-day directing staff what to do. And that all of these things that are in these different paragraphs. So that's what I was talking about when I said that the majority of Vermont SUs have as a policy regarding superintendent evaluation. It actually winds up being what would be a superintendent board relationship, maybe. And then when you look at the last paragraph here, this it very well may be where the VSBA stuff comes into play. Sorry, I'm not really great at highlighting it, which is that the VSBA, like I said, does have a part of the skill set they have, or part of the services that they provide, is that they do have a superintendent evaluation tool, which I believe gets used by a lot of the Vermont school boards that are not doing policy governance. And so that would hit upon things like finance, that would hit upon things of, community relations, that would hit up, whatever the titles are that they have. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all sort of talking from the same point. Or at least
If I
where I was
understand
talking.
you correctly, this is your preference? Is that true?
So
Or is
what
this
I
just
would
an
tell you, is, to be quite honest with you, is that this is about as far as I would say a policy should go, for a couple of reasons. One is that the issue of what evaluation tool are you going to use with the superintendent is a lot of times a point of negotiation with superintendents in terms of their employment contract and what would be looked at. I think there is a general acceptance through the state of Vermont, if you're talking about a candidate for an open superintendency has worked in the state of Vermont. I think there's a general acceptance of the VSBA's evaluation tool, but it very well may wind up being a point of negotiation. I think anything that you put as a policy about this is going to be what the tool that we use, in order to then change that, you do need to come back and modify a policy, as opposed to that you would have something that I think, talks about when you evaluate the superintendent's performance and the goals. There was Addison Northwest, I believe it's the one up in Virgins, has one that outlines clearly dates, clearly community involvement in providing, seeking community comments and things of that nature. I haven't talked to the superintendent in that SU regarding that. I'm pointing out, I guess I am more comfortable with this one because I think it gives more flexibility, and I think it also doesn't intrude on potentially something going forward that you may have, which is somebody coming in that wants to negotiate how that is going to be managed.
So could you entertain looking at what Lisa hopefully will get a chance to share with you?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd like to
Thank
see
you.
what it is. That's why I just wanted to make sure that when we're
Well-
referencing it, that it's from the VSBA. I may be wrong, that's why I was asking, but I think you may be referencing what their own evaluative tool is.
So when you ask that
Which is
question
fine, too.
that way, I want to be particularly careful is that when it comes time to get to the legal
Mhm.
person, I keep thinking about my paycheck. In terms of that, when we get to that stage for doing all this, then we'll make sure we review it. I won't be asking for a lot more because the directions come from the superintendents in terms of directing our legal services to perform certain things. So I wanted to make sure that when you say, can you look at all these and do that? And they say, yes, but then the meter's running. And so I want to be careful along that line.
This is worth it.
No, well, it won't be for us to say that. I'm going to say, we have in our policy review that eventually we're going to have legal look at these. But with all these other things comes through. Whenever I want to have something looked at, and so I say it in here and I send it to administrators to have it coordinated with this legal services, and then they come back.
So,
That's what I'm trying to make sure we flow in that direction.
Follow another policy that
So-
you're talking about.
That's right.
Okay.
so
And-
to the
and-
group, I would like you to know that we took the original and then we tried to adapt the same language as what we would had in the previous policy, but updated so that it included relevance to today.
Right.
That's what we hoped, that was our goal, and that's what we hope to accomplish.
And so once we get all of this into what we think it need to be right here, we're gonna have it reviewed for what may be, whether it's this in this format or it's gonna come to something else. Some things may not. You know, one of the questions that I always says ratings, and it doesn't have anything along that line. In the previous year, everybody has a fight about numbers.
Right.
And what's that? And I don't know how
It's a
we're
rubric, so
we're gonna come up with something out of this along that line. I'm just trying to give you whether it's a rubric or not. Somebody is going to look at that and say ineffective, development effective, and highly effective. And correlate that information back, which gives it the committee or whoever's working on it, which is the SVSU board chairs, will be responsible for, in the bottom of that policy, is summarizing and reviewing that with the superintendent. So I don't know how you're gonna take it to get that far. But and that's been the problem that we had each year. That's why it is what it is in there now, when it says the superintendent should do this and this and that. And then we had numbers and that's one didn't like it. So the next superintendent coming in the door may say, look, you can say whatever you want to. I'm not hearing it about no number. Okay? And this is what's happened over time. I'm just trying to make sure you understand what it,
Clarify that, because I didn't understand what you just said.
this required a review, and that we're going to share numbers or values in each one of these categories. You are with who? The SVSU chair, or you
Well,
going
it'd be the
to
committee.
yeah.
It'd be the review committee.
the current,
There's a subcommittee of the SVSU board that would review this information.
and then do what?
Talk to the
Make
board chair.
recommendations, talk to the board chair, involve the superintendent. That's
Like
You're talking about in terms of the in terms of the evaluation, what Leon is saying, and I agree with him. I mean, I've been doing this for you all since 2008. And I know that it has changed over the years, and we were doing it before 2008, and I now feel very old that I just said that. But it does change, and Leon is right. It had changed from Carpenter to McClure to, it absolutely changed all the way through. I think that I do think it's a difficult thing, and I think Leon is right, is that you do have superintendents who come in, and it is part of what they're gonna be concerned about in terms of, because it impacts on their employment, the same way teachers, have in their negotiated agreements in your district and in other districts, supervision and evaluation. Some of them put into their collective bargaining agreements, that they actually have a committee that sets it up, that whatever. Because it is something that impacts on somebody's employment status. I think that Leon, I'm open to reviewing whatever you send to me, to take a look at. I just present as an initial concern the fact that you are in a position, with all due respect to Superintendent Colkeen and Assistant Superintendent Boudreau, you're in a position where you're going to be dealing with hiring the top two individuals of your district and your central office.
I feel that it's extremely timely.
Yes, and I always feel that things should be transparent. And I would want and hope that we as a committee could do that for, not only for the new people coming in, but for the citizens of our community as well.
We can, do whatever we want in terms of sending. That's what I'm trying to make sure, but I'm trying to make sure you understand that just because we are saying it is not necessarily going to be exactly what it is at the end. Here.
This is every policy that
Yeah.
comes out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, because there are some, and I was trying to give you some information in terms of what has happened out here. So take, for instance, if I was the superintendent coming in, or assistant superintendent, and you showed me this, and I have somewhere saying that I'm responsible for the school and doing some other things down here, I'll tell you to take this thing and share it.
But you want to drill
That's
that's
what's
something
gonna
a little more specific before you tell me.
No, I'm just,
No, I'm asking you to do that. I'm asking you to do it here and now.
well, I'm saying that the format, that's why I'm asking, how are you gonna do this? Because 3 or 4 years ago, we had the system down, and we had rating, we had tried to go around and gave 1 through 5. Pretty much the same thing.
But I'm confused because I thought what you said initially is that you didn't want to debate this or go through this, but now it seems like you're nitpicking it
Well,
apart.
I'm giving you an example as to what it is that the problems are. And then I'm saying we can take this and we got to get it in a format that's presentable for all of us to look at and evaluate whether we want that. That's what I'm saying. And I was saying, I said, take this and we got to get it to the administrators, to get it on board, and then come back. And if we come back and say, okay, looks like we want to have it go to legal, we can ask them to review it. She's already indicating that she probably would like to take a look before that. And I'm saying, well, if that's okay with Jim and to be able to do that, then we can do that. But, for ahead of time, before it goes out to all of the districts to vote on it and approve it. And, that's what we needed to do first.
Understanding that the other piece of this is that this is just a tool that is part
Right.
of it. So that actually could go into that admin reg piece instead of the initial policy. That's another consideration as well.
Don't have any problem with that either, but I'm just trying to say that, I shouldn't have said it. Historically, I'm saying every year we change it. And so,
But we have.
That's inaccurate because the last one says it was 2017 and 18.
they did something different in ours. They did something different.
When,
When the evaluation took place, it was something different.
I'm just hoping that it can be something that is transparent for whoever our superintendent is.
The policy and the evaluation should sort of be hand in hand.
I'm not going to continue to debate the efforts. I'm saying you got this, you brought it, let's get it on there, get it in a format, and we'll see what happens at that point. That's all.
I assume it's going to be posted for
No, it's gotta go first.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So
That's what I'm saying. We gotta get it first in an agreement for this board. You just brought
Yeah.
something in
Order for this committee.
Committee.
to this committee.
Yep.
And
And
this,
so, you know,
this committee is going to take that and the things that are in here and how you want to get it is going to go to everybody that need to be able to understand and evaluate that. So when you say what piece associated with the superintendent, what piece is for finance or for somebody else, we got to make sure that those things meet the job requirement before
it-
we send it
it
out
would
to
be-
that point.
So now that it's out, it'll be on the agenda for
Yes.
next meeting.
Yeah, I'm just saying what we gotta do here. We got a lot of things to do. To move this on.
having heard that, we may even want to break this down over a couple of meetings.
Well, I'm just saying, it's gonna be, how many meetings it take, you
I
know, I
say it's a lot to digest, and obviously we're all, you know, invested in good outcome here,
Yeah.
and that needs a lively debate.
right. And if it's not ready and it's on the agenda, just like we just came back with something else on the policy, we keep coming until we get it,
Sure.
the loopholes in there. So what you're saying there, I'm not gonna say how many meetings it's gonna take to get this done, because one, there are other things that the board, this district and this board is gonna be managing along with this policy. And so we're not gonna have a no more than an hour and 15 to 20 minute meeting. We're not gonna have a 2 or 3 hour meeting this time, and it won't consume everything else along that line. So
That's to my point of making
That's-
more than one.
that's why I said it's gonna be more meetings for that. Yes.
Okay.
Whatever, until we get it the way we need to have it. That's all.
Well, the way that the policy committee agrees to get it, for it to then leave.
That's what
for
we,
everyone else. Yep,
that's what we mean.
just making sure we're all on the same page.
That's exactly what we mean.
Thank you.
That. So, in summary, is you got something you can get to Lisa. And she can,
She has it.
she has it, and we
Can
can,
I have a hard copy also, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Or say I'll get it from you at the end.
and so what's gonna happen, we'll be back for this on the agenda the next month. That's what will be happening, and we'll do some review here, as well as there are some other policies that are down here that, and some others that came in. You mentioned policy 1,000 got missing, is on there and that to be included. So we have to prepare to discuss those particular items. If that's okay with everybody, we'll move on to the next item on here, which is FYI 5040 for communicable disease administrative rigs. And so the community, that group went through it, and Lisa,
Yeah.
Laura.
This is super quick. The nurses caught a mistake they made.
Right.
So bottom line, Ashley Walker called and said, we made a little mistake. So the admin break, I think, is just to catch the mistake.
Yep. So that's one section. And then the one above, not highlighted, has been separated into two sections.
Right. So if anyone else have any questions about, that was the administrative rigs part, and they caught a mistake and brought it back. So we ready to accept that, and
Can I just make a grammatical change?
yes,
I don't actually think there should be a period and then or. I think it should just be one sentence.
Where are you?
On the MRSA one, I can't believe I'm actually able to say that.
Yeah.
Determine that they don't care for the student, get rid of the period and small o, or the student meet other exclusion criteria. Just grammatically didn't look right to me. Thanks.
Dina?
Okay, I think if that's it, then this will be released to the website. Posted since we didn't change.
Well, it'll go to all the boards, just as an FYI.
Just, I mean, this is administrative rigging and that throw out, but anyway. The tracking sheet, is one of the sheets that we can move on to. That sheet is, listed down for everything, and I, had a question. I don't know whether anybody had, but one of the things on is 6,100 library material selection. SVSU not approve that. We need comments from somebody. I don't know what happened there. I didn't get anything back. It just says no action taken. And I got no comments from anybody.
I could be 100% wrong.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I just saw that and I'm
No,
like,
not on the tracking sheet. I believe they felt that there was part of the policy missing because there weren't as many pages. But what was not there were the admin regs, because they don't adopt admin regs. It was simply the policy, but someone felt that there were missing pages.
either one of you guys.
I don't remember. Be honest, I don't.
So what we do is if they don't give the information back to put it in their approval note from that board and come back to us, we can't move it along. And we didn't get comments back. I mean, Lisa thought maybe that's what they thought, but they should have been comments. So that's the follow-up to find out what happened on SVSU for that.
It'll go back to them again.
Is it too soon to warn that on the next agenda for, I think, Thursday? Wednesday?
That's SVSU.
That's it.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And that went on Friday.
that's already gone out.
Worth the shot.
We got that morning date for that.
I
Also,
think.
that it's Thursday or Wednesday, whatever. You got.
Wednesday, we're meeting Wednesday.
If it's an error, you can fix that.
Oh, it's not an error on here. I know there was no action taken.
Oh, okay.
That part I know.
Lisa, was that when we had stopped the wellness? Do you remember, Laura? We had stopped the wellness policy, so one got.
That could be the situation too, because one of them, they didn't go
Yes.
back.
And the other one went forward and one didn't.
No, but two didn't go forward because they stopped
Because
on
the other-
one. Well, there were two separate policies, but they didn't move forward on one, and then the rest of it just kind of got skipped over.
Okay.
So that could be the situation. But I thought that was SBUESD.
But we want to make sure that we have comments as to what the problem is so we can get it resolved. Just no action doesn't mean anything. There is something wrong as the reason a board doesn't take the action that it should. Well, if it's not understandable, what about it that's not understand? If it's not, clear, or we think we got something else over here that need to be added to that, and we feel that it need to hold the thing up, then that information need to come back here because I'm looking for it so we can now react to that. I'm having the same questions about the student nutrition and wellness policy.
That's.
And it just said no action, but then the comments were made. I know enough here to be able to do that, but I'm trying to make sure that as we go out and we're on the other boards, that we get that information clearly documented as to what the problem is so we can manage. So that was my comments that I had down for the tracking sheet. Is there anything on the tracking sheet? Hearing none is good. Other future considerations with policy 5175, possession and sale and distribution or use of illegal substance is still down, and we have to do some other work out here, making sure all the legal requirements and all of the other things that are in place for to make sure that this thing is right before it comes up to the next level. Alcohol and drug-free workplace. Those were in the same, these two in the same boat. School community relations. I don't know why we hadn't been able to move that on out here for what may be involved with that, along that. Because we want to have a school community relation in which you just talked about in the compact that's part of that we have parents involved in the education system and doing things for policy number 5010. And that's
Leon, they were requests from, these are the three at the top, A, B, and C. They were brought to the table by the middle of the year by, I think, staff, community, and I think things keep cropping up in front of them, so
yeah.
they just keep getting moved down.
Yeah, and I'm just trying, and it's true. I'm saying that down here, and I know it was moving on. I just couldn't remember what when I read the 5010. I'm saying, oh, this should be moving. We'll have something to do to check on that. And then I added D on to that 1000 policy on policies that we wanted to have on here. Then any other next policy meeting is December the 2nd. And is there anything else that we needed? I'll ask everybody out here that we need to add, consider in terms, I just missed, well, we know, I'm trying to see how we going to do the pledge. Well, I mean, it came before us, but I need to get some information back. I don't want it to drop off. And so we can add it in terms of an investigation on here so that it won't be missing off the policy in terms of for future consideration, because we need to have some understanding as what's taking place. And so if somebody met somewhere else and say, we need to have that comes on to this board, in addition to having the community say something about the Pledge of Allegiance. So we can start to do some research as to how that will look like. And if another board is wanting to do that, it'd be nice to know how they're going to do it and take care of some of that research. Otherwise, I'm going to be saying, hey, everybody here we need to hit the websites. We need to hit everything to find out how and what a policy will look like coming from this board.
I think that in the evening, we were talking more about guidance within the elementary schools more than a policy. I think the word policy was used, but I believe it was that they were looking for guidance among the schools in our elementary district. Is that your belief?
Yeah, that's fair.
So
somewhere it should be covered.
So the word was used, but I don't think the intent was to have I think that there is direction and guidance that is coming from the board as to what could happen in our elementary schools.
But again, the SVSU umbrella is something that you want to make sure that if it's good for kids at that level and all the other schools out here. So it takes more than just, I mean, I spoke about some individual districts have things, but it takes more than just to say, I'm going to manage it over here. That took them at 30 years back. We want to make sure that whatever it is, if it's good for the 3rd or 2nd or 4th graders in this school district, it ought to be good for them over there because we're all under one SU. And we want to do our best to make whatever it is be whether it's a guidance and whether it's an administrative guidelines for SVSU, and we don't have to have a policy, that'll work. And those people will be happy that it's something that's uniform everywhere. You know, and I don't know what the outcome, but I'm saying it's something, uniformity is what we're trying to do.
If the middle school and high school felt strongly that I don't feel our elementary school district can guide anything other than our elementary school district. Does that make sense? I feel like what you're asking for is bigger than what our board should be addressing.
Well, and so from the administrative part of this, I'm just gonna say, I mean, we have school districts and you should, our goal is, and then if I, in gyms and wars and whatever, is to provide a consistent outcome of environment for everybody in this SVSU. And that's part of what policy 1000 talk about, is having something happen at one level versus another level and being inconsistent. That's why we formed this policy committee, is to eliminate those things and work out the outcome. I don't know why Wolford can't do that if GSD is doing it, or why North Bennington can't do it, and so forth. And so those are the questions that I'm gonna ask me. Why is it good for you and not anybody else?
So if you felt strongly, that would come up at your meetings, but we'll be addressing does that make sense? We can only impact.
Well,
what-
it does make sense from that board perspective, but then from administrative part, it doesn't make sense. And from a community part, it doesn't make any sense. And so I would be telling the board, whoever it is, that look, this ain't just for you guys. My kid is going to be at the high school next year, and I want them to make sure that the pledge doesn't have a statutory on it or limit on the age in which a kid should have it. I go to sports games at the high school level and whatever along that line, and they have everybody stop and listen to it or pledge to it and so forth in the different schools. So I'm saying we have an opportunity here not to be tunnel blind or tunnel vision on it, but to open the thing up and make sure everybody get the treatment that everybody should duly be allowed based on the veterans in terms of their comments and loyalty to this country. Those are my comments to you.
Thank you.
So Leon, it may make sense, I understand what you're trying to say, and it may make sense if you've got a moment to reach out to Chris Murphy or, and have a conversation, because I think he's the chair, right, of the elementary school district board, and have that conversation with him about what his intentions are of, I think it's understandable, right? Because they came to the Union Elementary School District Board first, because that's where they became aware, people who were upset about it, that's where they came aware of it. And we can have a conversation, I think, as well, of whether or not it needs to be a policy or if it is just if it's a board decision of what we would like to have occur in your school as well, in your schools.
Right. I'm a strong one to say, well, I want to love it for everybody myself in terms of what it is that we got now. Some boards, when I said tuition payment and some others they have for North Bennington or Bennington, some other stuff I hear that's saying this is rightfully mine and it doesn't affect Woodford or doesn't the other school over here, can be different. But something like that, that's going to affect every kid from K to 13, we need to be addressing an outcome in this community that's going to let them know what we stand for.
So Leanne, I welcome that you come and be at our board meeting. You can listen in on the conversation if you'd like.
Well, have you guys go ahead and I can, but I'm in North Bennington and I'm somewhere else. I'm on the Career Development Center board as a policy. I know that I can't make all of these boards meetings, so that's why we said we're gonna do. But anyway, that's that.
It may be something, Leon, that maybe, you, Laura, Jim and I can have a quick conversation about just the board chairs, maybe touching base with each other and having a quick, how y'all want to manage it, right? When is your meeting, Sandy?
Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. Okay. All right.
Would it behoove us to put out a little FYI to the public about how this thing works and that there's not going to be an instant answer? You know, one board may decide that it goes to policy, the other board may decide they want to take it on themselves. People may not get the immediate answer that I feel people are looking for. And just knowing the processes by which we get to these decisions is sometimes lengthy. It's open for comment.
Is the implementation part of that. So if the board says something and the directors that run the district say, wait a minute, we got to do something to be consistent. You got some work to do because it shouldn't happen in that manner. It shouldn't happen that way. And so what I'm saying, the goal for whoever it is to get this thing over to this committee to draft up whatever you're gonna come up with so that everybody will get a shot at it and understand it. If it's that important, if it ain't a guideline and if it needs a policy, I'm saying, let's bring it here if it needs that. And
I understand that.
okay,
That's why I want to share with the public the length of time it could very well take to get it here. We have to then push it back out to the board and then it comes back. Yeah, there's a potential there for 120 days when most people are expecting it to be decided on next Tuesday.
I mean,
I-
yeah, it won't come from this board in terms of that process right now, because I'm saying you mean.
That's fair.
That's not gonna come from here. So, that's the only thing else that I had open, so, with that, hearing none from someone else, I'd like to, I've gone over 8 minutes, I'm sorry.
First one.
An hour and a half max, and so, yes, I told my wife to be home for dinner. Have a motion
To adjourn.
okay, it's been motion adjourned. Anybody have, any objections to that? Don't speak now or forever hold you to peace.
Thanks, Dina.